Welcome back. Gemma and Jeff are with us. Later, it's our stories of the day. We'll talk about why campaigners are worried about the new no-fault divorces that come in today. A lot happening today, April the 6th. We're asking now if you support the eco-protesters who've blocked off oil facilities in Warwickshire. 020 7862 2222 is the number. Do call us. So here we see activists from the group Just Stop Oil. They blocked a number of oil terminals. These pictures are of the Kingsbury terminal in Warwickshire. The protesters have been gluing themselves to the road, causing oil tankers to be turned away. Demonstrators have been working with Extinction Rebellion to block access to oil terminals across the UK, recently demanding that the government stops new oil and gas projects. 283 protesters have been arrested across a number of sites. There they are. Their protests come as scientists from the IPCC say it's now or never to save climate change. They are glued there, by the way. So let's speak to one of them. Joining us is a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil, Nathan McGovern. Where are you, Nathan?
So right now I am about 15 metres off the ground in the rafters of an oil fuel loading platform at the Navigator oil terminal in Essex.
So you're risking your life, someone, aren't you? And those the lives of those people who might try and help you or walk underneath you or whatever.
I am in no more danger than I am by doing nothing. I am putting myself in no more danger than my government is doing by acting criminally on the climate emergency. What I am doing is small fry compared to that.
But that two wrongs don't justify a right, do they?
Have you seriously just asked me, am I doing something wrong when I'm fighting for my future? I am fighting for the millions of people all across the world right now who are living in drought, living in famine because of criminal inaction on the climate emergency.
So if there's a hospital that needs the oil that's coming from your terminal and they don't get it, what should they do? Just power off?
Don't pretend you care about the NHS now, Jeremy. Where were you when the nurses were denied a pay rise? Where were you when nurses didn't get PPE during COVID? Don't pretend you care now.
I think that's called whataboutery, isn't it? Where I ask you a question and you swerve.
What it's called is you picking a narrative that suits what your producer is telling you to say. Last year, the International Energy Agency told us we have no new fossil fuel projects if we are serious about the climate crisis. What is an unimaginable catastrophe? And our government plans to plough ahead with 40 of them. This year released, they still plan to approve 40 of them. That is genocide. So don't talk to me about pretending to care about ordinary people.
It's absolutely not genocide,
my studio guest Jeff is coming in. It's not genocide.
It's absolutely not genocide. Do you know what? At the point, the simplicity of this Just Stop Oil, at a time where we're trying to deal with something that's happening in Eastern Europe, and you have the absolute gall to use the word genocide about something which powers, yes, things are damaging to the environment, but as Jeremy says, hospitals, ambulances, I just can't believe that you would use the word genocide at this point in time.
I would suggest you go and tell that to the people in Ecuador who can't grow food because there is oil seeping into the land that they live on. I suggest you go and tell that to the president of Barbados who spoke at COP26 and said, within years, we are going to see their islands underwater. They will not exist anymore. I would love to see you go and tell
no one is denying that there are net effects.
Are being ripped apart.
No one is denying that there are net effects to these things, but for you to equivocate directly between one of the worst things that can happen globally between humans, genocide, I just think that if you've got this cause right, you lose people. You lose people when you use language like that. If you want to change public opinion, then perhaps don't use words like that.
What our government is doing is criminal. They have been delivered paper after paper, study after study, set of data after set of data, and have ignored it. They've broken promises, they have lied. Their action has, quite frankly, been criminal.
All right. We'll leave
They
it
are
there.
refusing to acknowledge the situation we're in.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nathan McGovern. Just Stop Oil. There he is on a platform. Someone's going to have to take him down. You think he's got a case? Do you think he's justified in doing that?
Look, I agree with you. The language, the word genocide was sort of not appropriate. But he is talking about an unpalatable truth that is coming towards us in slow motion. And the report has come out from the IPCC. You know, governments do globally need to be acting now. And at some point, we are facing starvation, billions of refugees, inhospitable land. And it's enormous. And I can understand I suppose what I respect in a way is that I feel very passionately about a lot of things, but don't really do anything to change them, okay? And I think throughout history, there have had to be people like that young man who care so much that they are willing to disrupt, to cause things. So if you're going back to suffragettes, civil rights movement, look at Malcolm X, look at Insulate Britain. What Insulate Britain are saying are insulate our homes. It's quite a simple message. And now, because of what's happening in Russia, I've heard so many people on TV going, well, what we really need to look at is insulating our homes. So often at the root, there is something important.
Let's get calls. Storm.
We're going to speak to Peter from Merseyside.
Go on, Peter.
Good morning. Good morning,
what
everyone.
What do you think of what we just heard there from Nathan?
To be honest, probably in the future, they'll look back and think what a fabulous person that he was. But what we've got to realise is, and what he thinks, we're in a war. And unfortunately, he's picking on the wrong target. If you want to get anything done in this world, the two things that you've got to acknowledge is money and power. And we don't control the money and the power.
When you say we're in a war, what are you talking about, Ukraine now or the climate crisis?
On the climate change, they're looking at it as a war. So what they need to do, realistically, is instead of shooting the populace, they need to shoot the managing directors. I don't mean literally. I mean, as a target, they need to pick on the top of the multinational companies.
So they stop producing oil. Okay, yeah.
Well, they have a list of all
Peter?
The multinational companies that actually cause the most trouble. Pick the top one, and all of us stop buying their products. Once you do that, and their profits start dropping, then they'll start thinking about
we go with that. So your home isn't powered by gas or anything like that? You don't run a car?
No, what you do is the top companies that have got, you've got to keep the world going.
Thank you. Okay, Peter, sorry, we've got to move on. Storm.
We're going to speak to Sally now from Devon.
Go on, Sally. Do you think he's right to climb that tower, young Nathan?
No, I think he should be spending his time. Perhaps if he went to work and gave 10% of his incomes towards people being able to put solar panels on their roof and gave up his free time to insulate roofs, he'd be doing something more useful than he would sitting on a tower doing nothing.
But what about Gemma's point? We may look back and he may have his statue in Westminster Abbey or something, you know. These may be the heroes.
Yeah, there's a young man in Braunton, and he's been sleeping in a tent for about over a year, and he's been raising money for, he's called Max, and he's been raising money for the local hospice. He deserves his statue in Westminster Abbey, and he's doing something useful. He's raising money for a good cause. Well, if this young man thinks that climate change is a good cause, which it is, a lot of three members of my family have wind turbines, and a lot of them have solar panels, and we all have insulation, then he should give up his time to raise money so that people can have better insulation. We can all have solar panels so that we wouldn't need to use so much oil,
All right.
and that would be far more useful for the environment.
So practical protest, Gemma.
Yeah, and it's wonderful that you're doing your bit, but so many people aren't engaged with it, and politicians seem to have their fingers in their ears. And again, I didn't necessarily like his delivery, but protest alters the agenda and it starts debate.
But no, I think I agree. Direct action is part of a democracy, and I think a lot of people are open-minded to the cause. But the old thing used to be inconvenience politicians, not people. And at the moment, the average population is dealing with, issues with money, huge disruption through COVID, fuel supply because of a war where we're trying to do as much as we can in that area. So I would rather, with those causes you mentioned, focus on the true power holders.
We're going to speak to Terry now from Kent, who thinks protesters need to be more realistic.
Go on, Terry. Oh, hello. Oh, that's the old coin. That's the 2p in the slot moment, that is.
Was he calling from 1992?
That was lovely. Oh, bless. And that's Terry's moment gone. After the break, it's our stories of the day. We'll see you very shortly. Beep, 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 beep.